right, guys, so let's look at the Forex calendar and really the upcoming economic events that are coming up this week. So we want to talk about things that we want to be aware of. Obviously, the thing that everybody is talking about, the Fed announcement today, absolutely throwing the entire kitchen sink at the economy. This is not just, absolute, commitment to rebuy as many instruments of debt as you could possibly imagine to inject as much liquidity. The clip going around on the internet, you guys have all seen it. There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. We'll make sure that people have money no matter what. Basically just telling us, yes, absolutely, we're going to see inflation of the currency, quantitative, basically infinity. And listen, the repercussions of this are going to be felt for years. The economy is going to suffer from this for years. It's not just the money. It's not just the injection of capital. It's not just the incompetence of government. It is also obviously the economic impact of the coronavirus, the results of isolation, the unemployment that's going to be caused. You guys are going to see unemployment skyrocket across the world. There's no pulling that back. Government doesn't have the power at their disposal to V-bottom us out of anything. Injecting more liquidity into the system is not going to help. We'll talk about exactly why that is here in just a second. So what I would be watching for on Thursday, we're going to get the unemployment claims coming out of the United States, right? Now keep your eye on this. Again, this is going to be a foretelling, a forecasting of what is going to continue to come, a sign of what's to come, what we're going to continue to see. Now, over in the land of America here, referencing Zero Hedge, we've got Trump coming out in his announcement. He just did another one. He just did a presser this evening. Where he says, we're going to be, releasing this kind of restriction on travel and movement sooner than we thought in 3 to 4 months. The Japanese Prime Minister Abe saying the world is not ready to host the Olympics. We are likely not going to see the Olympics. I believe that's the first time we will ever not have the Olympics, right? If that happens, it will be the first time, I think, ever, please correct me on that, where we do not have the Olympics. Goes to show you the actual impact of this. United Kingdom issuing stay-at-home orders. India, this is just now starting to hit India. Of course, we have analysts in India, and this is just starting to hit home for them as India begins to restrict travel, begins to restrict movement. They've banned international flights. The National Guard has been sent to New York, California, and Washington. And of course, this massive monetary stimulus package, not just from government, but also the Fed promising to purchase back votes. And again, the way that Tyler has worded this, perhaps realizing that facing down a second Great Depression. Let's talk about the latest proposal from the federal government of the United States on their relief. This comes from Bloomberg. We're going to be talking about $1.5 thousand in aid per individual, as much as $7.5 thousand for a family of 5. They're creating this federal pandemic unemployment compensation of $600 a week for any worker affected by the virus and eligible for unemployment compensation benefits, expanding paid leave and family medical leave, aiming to help current borrowers with student debt. Now, I certainly don't want to underplay the importance of student loan debt, but generally, I talk to a lot of people. I've helped a lot of people with finance and investment, right? And budgeting. I'm a financial minimalist, right? So again, this typically all starts, the best place to start trading, the best place to start investing is taking a good look at your current finances, getting your, getting your loans consolidated, getting to a good place of financial stability, making sure that you have enough income coming in, making sure that you have a good habit of setting money aside for emergency fund, making sure that you establish emergency fund, making sure that you have cash on the sidelines to take advantage of deals, making sure that you are diversified, cutting down on your spending. All of these things are absolutely vital, making sure that you have liquidity and good credit. These are all important things to have for anybody, particularly a trader, right? But I don't know, generally, student loan debt, in my experience, right? And I know that I'm going to get pushback on this, but student loan debt, in my experience, is one of the easiest things to kind of solve and have. I don't know a lot of people that are suffering from having to make payments on student loan debt, right? I'm certain that they are out there, but just in my personal life, I don't talk to those people a lot. So I don't really understand this obsession with this student loan debt. Businesses, small businesses are suffering, right? And there's this massive pushback on supporting businesses. Now, I certainly think that larger businesses should have, we're going to see who manages their money well, right? We're going to see who manages their money well. But it is an undeniable fact that if you run a small business, if you have invested your life savings into a barbecue joint or a restaurant, a financial analysis company, or any kind of self-help company, anything like that, I mean, you are going to be devastated from this because your money is going to dry up and you are going to go out of business, right? I don't think that people are going to go out of business for making student loan payments. Again, it's certainly not a good thing. I'm certainly against the institutionalization here of student loan debt. I think that it is a huge sham and a huge evil, but I don't understand this obsession, this focus on, helping people who have student loan debt out at the expense of absolutely companies and businesses that are going to go out of business because they don't have customers anymore, right? And I think that that is going to cause a lot more suffering. All right, $500 billion in grants, interest-free loans to small businesses. The only problem with that is who qualifies, right? Who qualifies? Who gets to choose who qualifies, right? And calls to ensure states can carry out this year's election. Of course, that's a priority because, going to bang our domestic drums here. All right, now cash relief to families certainly is going to help in the short term. And I've said this before, I'm not against it. I mean, I'm against the Fed's intervention from a place of principle, but it is what it is, right? This is the system that we have. And it is, it's a good thing to do, right? It's not a terrible thing to do, but that's only going to help in the short term. It is not a long-term solution to the underlying problem. The government cannot just subsidize individuals to sit and stay at home longer than, I mean, honestly, they can't even do it for a month. The effects will be felt, right? So they certainly can't do this for 2 months. They certainly cannot do this for, the gavel and hammer or hammer and sickle or whatever they're talking about. That's communism, but type of approach to the coronavirus that is being that is quite popular. And this involves a lot of social distancing. This involves a lot of lockdown. And again, I've seen the numbers, I've studied the graphs, but it's just people are really, really, really going to hurt from this. Now, the government injecting cash into people's paycheck, bank accounts is not going to help, right? The free market spurns activity, and that's taken a huge hit. So, in my opinion, what needs to happen is I think that you're actually going to see a huge wave of entrepreneurs come out of this, right? We are all connected now through the internet. The internet is all that is required now to conduct business. All you need is a bank account or a way to receive transactional money. And Bitcoin solves this, right? So with knowledge and skill and the ability to provide value over the internet remotely and the ability to utilize Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency, or again, PayPal, Venmo, cash, there's all kinds of things. There's all kinds of ways to receive payments. I think you're going to see a huge wave of entrepreneurs come out of this because the free market, when it is unleashed upon the world, it solves problems. And this is a fantastic opportunity for individuals to, in my opinion, start a business they've always wanted to, right? Again, this is a tragedy for individuals that have consumer-based, all tourism-related things. Disneyland is going to take a hit for the next 2 years, minimum, right? Maybe even 4 years, maybe longer, right? But places like that, restaurants, all of these things, they're going to take a hit. But those who have coding skill, those who have online skill, and I think that those who have a financial skill, right, which is what we focus on, technical analysis, financial fundamentals, good budgeting, just understanding how the financial markets work and how to preserve capital and how to actually push against the curve of the majority of fund managers out there and professional investors and money managers. You call Fidelity and you're like, hey, manage my money. Call your Fidelity money manager right now and ask how your investment's doing. And then tell them you want to short the market, right? And I bet you they tell you that you can't do that. I bet you they tell you if they allow you to do it, they might not even allow you to do it. But if they do allow you to do it, they are going to tell you that is the absolute worst thing, that this is the best time to buy. They're all going to say that because they don't understand that most of these people have never been through a bear market, right? Which we are undeniably in right now. The free market is what generates activity, and that's taking a huge hit. So what you're hearing from government is, in my opinion, the subtle acknowledgement that they are completely unable to fix this problem. They are talking as if the pieces can be put back together, no problem. And it won't. It can't. Government does not have the levers at their disposal, at least not our government, right? Because all they can do is inject cash into the system, and that's not going to fix anything without a free market, without commerce, without business, right? And business is essentially shut down right now. All right, so we talked about the Democratic counterproposal right now is equal to about $2.5 trillion, 1,500 direct payments. We talked about the funding, $80 billion in loans. Now, the other thing there to consider is that the reason, the reason why people have so little faith in the Fed's bullets right now is something that senior analyst Alex pointed out so succinctly over the last few weeks, is that the government inflated the stock market over the 2010s. The stock market, let me rephrase, the stock market went up almost 50% in 2 years. What caused that to happen, right? Did we cure cancer? Did we discover, interstellar space travel? Did we figure out AI in a way that isn't Terminator style? No, we didn't do any of that, right? So why did the market go up so much in such a short period of time? Monetary manipulation from the Fed. That's why. So again, we can, we're apolitical on this channel, so we can go back and forth between what's good and what's right, or what side of this argument that you're on, right? There's obviously a lot of heated rhetoric coming out, people on the left and people on the right arguing about what's the best right. Obviously, what the GOP wants to do is evil, what the Democrats want to do is evil. Listen, I don't think there's really a time or a place for that. I think that regardless of how you feel, I think that largely these efforts are not going to land where either side wants them to, right? Government intervention here is not going to land where we want it to. It's not going to have the results that we want, but we're going to have to deal with it, right? What I'm concerned about, and we have to talk about these realistic things, right? Because regardless of what side of the aisle you stay on, you have to be concerned with the pork that legislators will attempt to fit into the bill. There's a saying, right? Never let a good crisis go to waste, right? So let's go over some of the holdups, right? Now, obviously, this is being I want to be apolitical here, but this is all that I can kind of pull up. Obviously, we've got the same thing. I'll cover the same thing on the other side of the aisle here in just a little second. But in the counter proposal, things that the Democrats are asking for in the current coronavirus relief bill are corporate board diversity, college debt relief, election auditing, canceling the debt of the Postal Service, same-day voter registration, requiring airlines to offset their emissions. Funding for community newspapers, free internet, $100 million for NASA's Environmental Restoration Group, mandatory paid sick leave for every single business. That's not going to work, right? If you force small businesses to pay for sick leave, they will just fire the employees. Most of them will just furlough the employees, right? Because they can't afford it. It's not going to work. Hiding the citizenship status of college students from the Census Bureau. Now, again, these are all larger topics that we can certainly debate, and this is not the time for that, right? Just get the aid, inject the money into the medical system. That's where the money needs to be. And my estimation is that, okay, giving the money to people in the short term certainly will help, and then do everything you can to unleash the free market on radically raising the bar of medical availability up, right? Because eventually people are going to go back to work. Eventually people are going to go and start living life, right? Because there's going to be a point where people are like, listen, I'm not just going to stay here unemployed and broke with no hope. I'm going to go out. I'm going to the bar, right? So people are going to go out. This idea of social distancing might work if there was a very easy way to keep the economy humming along while people worked from home. But for a large majority of citizens, that's just not going to happen. They have lost their jobs. They're going to lose their jobs. Businesses are going to go out of business, right? So it's very, very, very hard to get people to submit to this idea of community social distancing, what's good for the community, which again is important, right? Again, those who have the ability should do everything they can, right? To stay at home, to respect social distancing. If you have the ability and means, I'm just being realistic here. A lot of people can't and won't. So eventually people are going to go out of their homes and they're going to go back to work. And then this thing is just going to start spreading again, right? We can do everything we can to flatten the curve. But the most critical thing in my estimation is radically raising the bar of medical availability of things like ventilators, ICU beds, and hospital availability, right? I'd like us to eventually go out into a world where if you get sick, right, you go to the hospital, and you have a good chance of living, and not there is no ICU bed, there is no hospital bed for you to go to, and you die at home on your couch, right? I don't want to live in that world, right? And I think that we have a good chance of avoiding that significantly, because the only responses that the only thing that I'm seeing right now, the only solution that people can come up with is that we just have to stay home and lock down, right? And that will certainly help, right? You will lower that RO ratio quite a bit. You can flatten the curve that way. But a lot of people aren't going to do that. A lot of people aren't going to do that and won't do that. So you have two options, right? One, complete government is that you get things like what we're going to talk to here in a minute, with the government wanting to essentially suspend habeas corpus, right? So you have this being carried out by fiat authority with the strength of the federal government. That is the military, right? That is the military, because that's what will be necessary to corral this. That's what will be necessary in our country to do this, is military force eventually. And the other option that you have, the better option, in my opinion, because that option is not, that option's terrifying, right? That option is horrible. The other option that you have, put money into the free market, let the free market do its thing, right? Radically increase the number of ventilators, radically increase the number of ICU beds, radically, incentivize the training of nurses, doctors, right? I mean, doctors are VIPs right now. They are MVPs, right? For every doctor that goes down, I mean, we're losing lives. You have to do everything possible to get the people that can to the place where they can do it, right? And that is, again, there are all kinds of restrictions on medical expansion, on ICU beds. There are restrictions on production. Do everything possible, right? The government has the money and the power to do that, or at least contribute to that. Locking us down and throwing cash at us is not, it's not going to cut it, guys. It's not going to cut it. What is the plan, right? Because I have not heard square one from government. Again, I'm just like you guys. I've been home all day watching Twitter, watching the news, seeing what's going on, and I haven't heard square one from any government about that, right? What is the plan, right? How are you going to increase ventilators? How are you going to increase ICU beds? How are you going to incentivize people to help the medical sector? How are you going to do that? Where is the money for that? Where is the money going to that? Specifically break it down. No plan. There's no plan. It's terrifying. But listen, being very consistent about this, we are going to get through this, right? We are going to get through this, right? This isn't going to destroy the world. It's just going to make things very, very difficult. It's going to fundamentally change the way we live life for quite some many years to come, right? And I want people to be ahead of that and aware of that so that they can adapt and be ahead of the curve, right? So have a valuable skill. Learn to market yourself. Learn to be a financial minimalist. Get your budget in control. Find a way to make money. Be good at the markets. I think all of that is going to be absolutely critical. Because if you're not good at the markets, if you do not understand, if you're not financially literate, which is what we focus on, if you're not financially literate, you are going to fall for the same stuff that everybody else that is not watching this channel right now falls for out there, right? Which is the stimulus package is going to take care of this. The money's going to take care of this. The government has a plan. They don't. You need to make a plan that protects you and yourself and your family and puts you in the best situation for success possible, because those options are out there. This is not dire, grim, dystopian future, right? This is just, man, things are pretty crappy right now. You got to have a good plan. You got to be ahead of the curve. The other thing here, of course, that I'm concerned about is not the direct threat of government expansion, right? Not that boot, all right, that I talked about, right? Not that the boot's going to come down now. But the other thing, with the same thing with government pork, is that every little step that government takes into our lives, we get more comfortable with them being closer. Then they take another step. And then they take another step, right? One day, you see all these dystopian things, right? Like one day, the mask will be revealed and the Illuminati lizard lords will stand atop the throne. It's not going to go down like that, right? Because the Illuminati lizard lords don't exist, right? That's not reality. What is the real world is power dynamics and control and human greed and fallibility and centralized systems, which always tend toward entropy, always tend toward command and control and managing more resources and pulling more things in and exerting more influence over the personal lives of citizenry. That's how it always happens. That's how it's always happened throughout history. We got a chance. We have a very educated and connected and brave populace, right? We do. You get a real chance here, man. You get a real chance to make history. The more people who are not financially literate, who are not historically literate, who don't see what's going on. Just one more kick in the can, man. Also, the UK monetary policy coming out the same day as unemployment claims on Thursday from the UK. So keep your eye on that for the British pound, for my Forex traders out there, right? Listen, I don't have as much to pick on the GOP here about. I'm sorry. I'm sure you guys send me more. I'll certainly blast at them down. Let me know in the comment section. But I don't know if I have the tweet here, but $450 billion of the Mnuchin slush fund is exempt from disclosure, right? So that's certainly not cool. I mean, I don't trust $450 billion discretionarily, just like helicopter out however you want. Certainly not okay with that. Certainly not cool with that, right? And on the issue of purchasing long-term corporate debt, this gets really tricky, right? So money into the free market is not a bad thing at this point in time, right? There are a ton of distressed companies and giving them the cash, giving them money, right? If you're going to give people money, give businesses money so that they can hire on employees and let people do things, right? That's what generates economic activity and goods and services, right? Which will reduce inflation, right? The more money you print without a resultant increase in goods and services equals inflation, right? The more goods and services you're able to output while increasing the monetary supply lowers that burden, right? But we're talking, I mean, the amount of money that they're going to print is sick, man. But the problem here is who gets to decide what corporations get bailed out? Do I get to decide? Do you get to decide? Do we get to vote on it? No, we don't.